This is awesome. You can't see anything. No sky, no ground.
For 2 weeks, we are allowed to accompany the researchers at the German research station in Antarctica, Neumayer Station III. They give us an insight into their everyday life and their work in the perpetual ice. A place like no other on the planet.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
A very special adventure for our team too.
Here we go at last. We've waited so long for this.
We've put half a year of preparation into this film. We, that's cameraman Patrick and editor Matthias. To travel to Antarctica at all is a real adventure for us. Our journey begins in a doctor's surgery in Germany. Everyone who wants to go to the research station has to undergo an extensive checkup, and so do we. It's supposed to reduce the risk of someone becoming seriously ill while in Antarctica.
The things they want to know about you. All this for 2 weeks.
The diagnosis? We are fit and healthy. Now, the clothes. The Alfred Wegener Institute, which also operates the Neumayer station, provides researchers and us with polar equipment.
Now that's a sleeping bag. It's like a giant clothing store, just for expedition gear. How cool is that?
Wie geil ist das denn?
Each of us gets over 30 pieces of equipment for our time in the Antarctic. However, everything is only borrowed. And now, we pack. For the shoot in Antarctica, we've taken more than we usually do. Spare cameras and lots of batteries. At low temperatures, they deplete very quickly. Everything has to be packed safely. Antarctica isn't really the place where you can buy replacements.
Now we're off to Antarctica.
The journey really starts in Cape Town, South Africa. From the airport there, we're supposed to be heading straight to Antarctica. For now, it's still sandal weather.
How are you? I'm excited. It's the most extreme thing I've ever done.
Only for a few months a year, during the Antarctic summer, are flights to the Antarctic possible at all, weather-wise. The passengers are almost exclusively scientists, but we're a bit surprised. Everything else is just so normal. Okay, not everything. The bags in the front of the plane contain the polar clothes from the clothing store, so we better take them along.
Good morning.
From the inside, the plane looks like a normal holiday aircraft, but after a few hours in the air, the first people suddenly start to get changed in the aisle. Let's just join in. Then we look out the window and get our first view of the Antarctic. Overwhelming. But where do you land a plane in Antarctica? On the ice, of course.
We're here. Have you looked out of the window? It's incredible. I've never been so excited. Have you looked out of the window yet? Here we are. Weird. I still can't believe it.
Ich glaub's immer noch nicht so ganz.
But we're now in Antarctica, although not yet at our destination. We changed to this little polar plane. To be able to land where we want to go, it needs skids instead of wheels. After a total of 8 hours since leaving Cape Town, we finally reach our destination, Neumayer Station III. About 40 people from different countries are there at the moment. And now, so are we. While it's winter in Germany, it's summer here. And actually, it's not that cold at all. Not even -10 degrees. But there's a blizzard raging. We want to experience it just this once and get ready for a walk. In a small group, we set off. Finding your way is only possible in this weather thanks to the black lifelines. Our plan is to get up the hut pictured on the right, our bedroom for the next 2 weeks. This is how we'll sleep. Afterwards, we go right back. It is only a few hundred meters, but the walk is a real adventure.
My glove's frozen. How was it? So cold. A little windy.
Neumayer Station III is the only German research station in Antarctica that is occupied all year round. It is operated by the Alfred Wegener Institute. In summer, up to 50 people live here. Most researchers stay for several weeks, but there's a group that stays all year round. The group of Overwinterers consists of 9 people, 4 scientists, 1 doctor, 1 cook, 1 radio operator and 2 technicians. They spend 14 months at the station. Even during the Antarctic winter, when the station is completely cut off from the outside world. Neither ships nor planes can get in or out. And during the polar night, the sun never rises for more than 2 months. It's dark around the clock. He is one of the Overwinterers. Dr. Bernhard Gropp is a doctor and head of the station. He's responsible for a medical study that has nothing to do with Antarctica, but with space travel.
Yes, come in.
Hallo Thomas. Hallo. Na, wie geht's?
All Overwinterers take part in the study. This includes station engineer Thomas Sterbens.
Ja, wir schauen hauptsächlich
Yes, we mainly look at the Overwinterers' adaptability to the isolation, to the lack of stimuli, and also to the stress reactions.
Und auch die Stressreaktion, es bildet ja
These are all factors that cause a stress reaction.
The study provides important findings for space medicine. The idea: the Overwinterers' lives here resemble a space mission. They are isolated, they are always in the same environment. How this affects the health of all the Overwinterers is checked with the help of blood samples. But the extraordinary circumstances here also have an effect on the psyche.
Over the winter, i.e. the dark polar night, you can see most of the team members slowing down a bit, that the need to sleep has increased, and you have the feeling that you don't remember things as well. This is a subjective perception, of course, but I think you do notice it.
Besides the blood samples, there are also psychological tests. How much the Overwinterers sleep and how much they move during the day are also tracked around the clock. And there is a space simulator. Once a month, Thomas Sterbens has to try to capture a satellite with a robot arm. An exercise that prospective astronauts have to do, and which requires an extreme amount of skill and concentration.
Now we've pushed him out into space. Not good?
Das ist nicht gut. Nein.
No, that's definitely not good. But the robot has a lot of axes, and you can move it in almost every direction.
This is exactly why the study participants do this exercise. The question is, does life here have an influence on spatial perception or fine motor skills? The results of the study are still to come, but maybe research here in Antarctica will be able to improve space travel a bit more in the future. A storm has been raging at the research station for several days. The underground car park remains closed for safety reasons. So, the researchers have to work inside, including sea ice physicist Stefanie Arndt. This thing is an electromagnetic measuring device. It measures the conductivity of the environment. The scientists want to use it to determine the thickness of sea ice. Because metal falsifies the measurements, they put the device into a plastic kayak. But why is it even important to know how thick the ice on the sea is? Sea ice is, of course, a very important indicator when it comes to understanding climate interactions and changes in climate. And even if we don't see the strong changes in Antarctica yet, it is, of course, important to describe the actual state in order to see where this might lead. Meaning, if climate change were to arrive in Antarctica, Stefanie Arndt will be able to measure it. Now we wait.
What's stopping you from just driving off?
The weather. There's still quite a storm out there, and that's why they are afraid that when they open the hatch, everything will be covered in snow, and that's why we have to be patient for now. But it is worth the wait. Once the weather is good, the scientists can finally get out, and we're right there with them. And we'll find out what's hiding under this flap in the ice. Also, a moment of shock. Our cameraman takes a fall during a snowstorm. So, stay tuned for the second part of our trip to Antarctica. Our team has now been in Antarctica for a week, on the other side of the world, at the German research station Neumayer 3. We want to know, what are they actually researching here? A snowstorm has been raging since we got here, but we won't let that stop us. Together with geophysicist Mirko Czerwonka, our editor in his black jacket is heading towards the Geomagnetic Observatory. Now, what could that be? First problem, getting there.
If the weather was good, we could go straight there. There's a wooden signpost.
But because the weather is not good, we have to follow the black lifelines. They show the way to all important research facilities, the so-called observatories in the vicinity of the station. This is one of them. But this is not our final destination. Here we have to put belts on, because we're going to climb downwards into the ice.
And how deep does it go? About 10 meters. Okay.
Then a hatch suddenly appears in the middle of the ice. So this is the entrance into the Magnetic Field Observatory.
I think the idea of climbing into the ice is so crazy.
We learn that the shaft gets deeper every year. Every year it grows about 1 meter in height. The reason? Snowfall.
Oops.
Matthias enjoys the descent.
This is so funny.
But the station's geophysicist has to come down here every other day, which is quite a commute.
Yeah, it's not easy.
At the bottom, we discover the devices used to measure the magnetic field here. They are particularly sensitive to cold and vibrations. But deep inside the ice, it's relatively warm throughout the year and there's no wind. Geophysicist Mirko Czerwonka works here as a kind of watchdog for the Earth's magnetic field. He regularly measures the field strength and orientation.
Without the magnetic field, the sun's rays would hit the Earth and make life difficult. So the magnetic field protects the Earth from magnetic solar storms, for example.
Because of eruptions on the sun, such solar storms occur again and again. This is not a bad thing at first, because the Earth's magnetic field is like a protective shield. But if the magnetic field changes or becomes weaker, the protective shield no longer functions properly. That's why it is so important to study the magnetic field. Without a protective shield, solar storms could cause large-scale power outages, or even cause our mobile phone network to collapse. The scientists in this ice cave are making sure that we find out about this early enough. Back at the research station, we get something to eat. And it's not dry bread or astronaut food. We are fascinated by what the station chef cooks up here 3 times a day. Zürcher Geschnetzeltes in Antarctica? Fresh food is only available when planes land in summer, but there's nothing else missing. Once a year, an icebreaker delivers 60 tons of food. And on the way back, the ship also becomes a garbage disposal vessel. The station engineer explains that the researchers' waste doesn't just get disposed of somewhere in Antarctica.
All garbage that comes to Antarctica must also be taken back, which means it's compressed as small as possible, shredded and then stowed in containers, and every gram is written down so we can reconstruct what's in each container.
The next day, it's still blowing a gale, but we really want to get out. Tim Heitland is going to accompany us. He's a former Overwinterer and now coordinates the station's operations.
What's this? This is the board on which we record who's currently in the facility. Because in case of a fire, you can see who else is in the station, who else is missing, and who to look for. And I just change my status here. Absolutely.
Outside, the storm is blowing at over 80 kilometers per hour. Due to a physical effect, under this station built on stilts, the wind is even stronger. Not exactly perfect working conditions for cameraman Patrick. But the storm isn't the scariest part. If you walk away from the station, it looks like there's just nothing out there.
This is weird. You see no sky, you see no ground, you see nothing at all. Yeah, we call these conditions whiteout. Practically no contrast, no horizon, and on top of that, there's the flying snow.
We're still in the middle of an interview when suddenly... Poor Patrick.
Are you all right?
Let's hope it's nothing serious. So, first of all, camera off. The next morning, Patrick's foot hurts. He can hardly walk. Fortunately, there's a fully equipped hospital at the research station and a doctor. The X-rays show that nothing is broken, so all he can now do is wait.
I'm going to take a day off, and then I'll go out again tomorrow. I also hope that the weather will be better by then.
Yeah, the next day the weather is wonderful. We can finally go out. And Patrick is actually back on his feet. So now it's non-stop filming. Sea ice physicist Stefanie Arndt is getting her kayak ready, which has an ice thickness gauge inside it. We're accompanying her to find out how climate research works.
Can I put this in here, the camera equipment?
It's the first time our editor has been on a snowmobile, and it's the first time we can see blue sky in Antarctica.
Here we go at last. We've waited so long for this. I'm so excited.
What a sight! An endless ice desert.
This is awesome. Check it out. This is so incredibly beautiful.
Antarctica is almost twice as big as Australia. And even if it doesn't look like, it's not just ice. Antarctica is a real continent, land that is largely covered by an ice sheet. It is almost 5 kilometers thick in places. At the edge of this ice sheet, the so-called shelf ice floats on the sea. It is still several hundred meters thick. After all, the outermost edge of Antarctica consists of sea ice, seawater that freezes in winter. In summer, however, it melts and the sea ice surface shrinks by 80%. As a result, Antarctica shrinks as well, until it grows again in winter. This is where the sea ice begins. All this will break up in a few months and drift away. Then there's only water here, so Stefanie Arndt has to work fast. She wants to know how thick the sea ice is in certain places, along a so-called transect. She uses an electromagnetic measuring device to measure the thickness of the sea ice. A reduction in sea ice could be a crucial indication of how far climate change is affecting our planet. What we can read from the data, and this is a very important point, is the change. What are we measuring today, and what did we measure on the same transect 8 years ago, and what can we deduce from that? What can we observe in terms of global climate change? Researchers can't yet find any indication of climate change here. The hope is that, thanks to Antarctica's remote and isolated location, this could remain so for a while. Then we let the scientists continue their work in peace. Tim Heitland has another surprise for us. Incredible ice formations on the edge of the shelf ice, the transition between sea ice and shelf ice.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Good, isn't it? I think so too.
As we drive away from the edge of the ice shelf again, they are suddenly everywhere. Emperor penguins. The colony here is home to almost 30,000 penguins. What a sight. What a noise. What a dream to be here.
Tim, this is so wonderfully beautiful here. Do you still see it like this too? For me, it hasn't lost any of its magic. I still think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Our time in Antarctica has unfortunately come to an end. For us, it is back to Neumayer Station and then home. What remains are the memories of scientists who are passionate about their research. To help us understand how the magnetic field protects us from solar storms, what climate change is doing to our planet, and what happens to astronauts on space missions. And last but not least, this trip was a huge adventure that we will certainly never forget.